hand up to what you think is right. Somebody committed a 21-year fraud against
but not
me.
them. And now you've lost two of them. They're not in your life.
But the point is, how do I allow somebody who's committed something like that against me, my ex-wife, to just go off scot-free? Because there are many times...
Because the risk is you lose two of them, and that's what's happened.
But they're grown men.
What's up, YouTube? Poor Man Podcast back with another video. Today's video is going to be Millionaire Man finds out his 3 kids aren't his. All right, before I get into the video, though, got to do the YouTube stuff. The goal is 50,000 subscribers by June. It's a crazy goal. It's a big goal, but it's my goal. All right, the only way I'm going to get to my goal is if you give me the HBO special. Do you know what the HBO special is? That's the Help a Brother Out special. All right, so go and help a brother out. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. I'm going to give y'all a second to do that. All right, now let's get to the video. Millionaire Man finds out his 3 kids are not his. All right, and before I get into this video, I want y'all to stay tuned, okay? Just make sure y'all stay at least until the middle to the end kind of area, all right? Because there's certain parts, there's certain language that's used that we have to dive into. And when you see what the interviewer does, when she attacks this man for basically standing up for himself, just stay till the middle, to the middle, about the middle end. All right, at least stay until there. All right, let's get into the video.
Who discovered after being diagnosed with the life-limiting illness cystic fibrosis that he couldn't be the father of his 3 sons because the condition causes lifelong infertility, has told this programme the news left him feeling suicidal. Doctors revealed in 2016 that Richard Mason couldn't be the dad to the children, who are now 19 and 23. Richard sued his wife of 20 years, Kate, and they recently reached a settlement of £250,000, with her admitting she'd had an affair while the couple had been married. Well, we spoke to Richard and his current partner, Emma.
When he said to me, "You've got cystic fibrosis," I immediately thought, oh my God, my sister died of that at 29. And her death was very hard for me because with cystic fibrosis, you slowly suffocate on your own phlegm. And it took her 2 years to eventually waiting for a heart and lung transplant. And then she died on the operating theatre. So immediately I was just very saddened by that. But then when the discussion then turned to fertility, and he said, look, yourself and Emma, you know, you're going to have difficulty having children because you are, as a man with cystic fibrosis, infertile. It was suddenly like being hit by a sledgehammer. I just went, oh my God. You know, you suddenly realise that your children aren't yours. So said, well,
immediately you knew the significance of what he just said to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of you?
There were medical experts in the room, and you know it's impossible without IVF for a man with cystic fibrosis to have a baby.
Wow.
So then I said, well, you must have the diagnosis wrong because I've already got 3 boys. But I sort of was like clutching at straws there. So after that, it became a complete blur for me because it was almost like, you know, I don't know if you've ever hit your head really, really hard and it's like a ringing and you just, you can't see anything that's going on around you. You can't think of anything that's going on around you. It's almost like you just have this ringing in your ears, and it's all the implications of everything as a result of that start, you know, flashing through your mind.
Like what kind of questions are you then immediately asking yourself?
He just wanted to go straight to phone Kate, his ex-wife, say, Kate, spare me the dignity, just tell me the truth. Was there anyone else? When
I'd managed to compose myself, it was about an hour later, I sent her a text and I said, look, and this text has been in the press, but it was actually repeated verbatim from what I sent to her, and it's still on my phone now. I said to her, look, I've just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. I'm not expecting you to be sympathetic about that because she's a very hard person. Oh. And but the reason I'm telling you is that the boys are not likely to have been fathered by me. Now, obviously, there's something's gone on. And if you are honest about it with me, I don't intend to sue you. And you can decide how you want to tell the boys. If you want me to be there at the same time, that's fine.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going to get back to the video, but let me dive into this just a little bit, all right? Mandatory DNA test for men should be a right, okay? Men, as men, we don't have very much in the court system, all right? We understand that. We understand the government is going to find a way to take as much as they can from men because men are disposable. No one cares about the problems of men, all right? We get it. But throw a dog a bone, all right? If I work hard for 40 hours a week for 40 years, at least let me know if my children are my children, all right? Can we all agree that mandatory DNA test should be a thing? Okay? I get it. I get society doesn't care about men because we're just disposable, all right? Just produce, and then when you die, you just die. No one cares about you. I get it, all right? But the bare minimum is mandatory DNA test, all right? Imagine finding out that you have cystic fibrosis, but on top of that, your legacy, the only thing as a millionaire that you have, you've gained all this money, you've worked 80 hours a week, trying to build all this money, to build this income, because that's usually what these guys do. These are high performing men, and it's not easy to do. All right, these guys are spending 80 hours a week, 60 to 80 hours a week working. Okay, so imagine doing all that work, becoming a millionaire, getting the bag, only to find out that the people you have to leave it to are not your children. And people are going to say, oh, he has a connection with this and this. It will never be the same. Okay? They will have a relationship. I'm sure it will be a good relationship. But knowing that those are not your children and you raised them as such for 18 years or however old they are, it won't be the same. It just won't. Okay? And I'm happy. I'm happy he's going after her financially, because too many times do we see this have no repercussion for women. Okay, the rate for children not, or fathers who are, how do I say this, the rate for men who are raising children that may not be theirs is about 5 to 30%. So no one really knows what this number is. All right, but we could kind of get an idea if we implement mandatory DNA tests. I don't think that's too much to ask for men who are building societies and civilizations to keep women and children safe, because that's pretty much what we're all doing here. All right, as men, we know we protect and provide, and we build civilizations to make it easier for women and children to thrive. It's that simple. So I think that if we're doing that, we should at least get to know if the children that we're providing for 18 years plus are ours. Like, that's the bare minimum, man. Like, let's get back to the video and hear his story. I'll let it play out again before I may jump in and say something. It depends, but let's continue. Stay tuned though, because I want y'all to hear the language that the interviewer begins to use, and I'll dive into that when it comes. But let's keep going.
But if you lie to me, then I will take action, and I'll decide how I'm telling the boys. And the immediate response I got back was, I am sympathetic, but whatever science says, those boys will always be yours.
Those boys will always be yours.
Which was
It's slightly different than saying you are definitely the dad. When you were diagnosed, your sons were 21 and the twins were 17, I think.
Yes.
When your then
21,
wife was
the other
pregnant
twins are 17.
on those
He's raised them
occasions,
to maturity.
Did you ever suspect, have any inkling, ever think, oh, that's a bit odd, at the time of the pregnancy, through the birth, afterwards?
There was one or two occasions that after the boys were born, I thought that they didn't resemble me as much as, you'd imagine that boys would.
They didn't look like you?
Well, they've got darker eyes than me. I'd have almost no body hair, and the boys have got very dark hairs on their legs and things like that. But around the time that she got pregnant, we'd been having unprotected sex for 7 years. Nothing had happened. Now, she always said to me, I have a tilted womb. I don't know what that is, but it means that it's harder for a woman to get pregnant. So we'd always thought it was her, and we'd gone for fertility treatment, or to see the GP to start the fertility process. And the GP said, well, the first thing that has to happen is you have to be tested, Mr. Mason, and then we test your wife. Now, it's likely to be 3 occasions of IVF that you're going to need. They're about £5,000 a time, so it's £15,000. But after that, there's a good chance you will have a baby.
Wow.
So when we went home, we both were working at Barclays at the time, and she said, look, we've got our careers, We're both. I mean, yuppies was like a in the 80s, a really like popular term for young people who were doing well in their careers. She said, "We're both yuppies. Let's just carry on with our careers and see how it goes." A few months later, she was pregnant. So I thought, oh my God, that's weird, because you often hear of people going for treatment and then suddenly naturally get pregnant. And she said, "Oh, it's just one of those things." So I did feel a little bit like that's a surprise, because we go to start the IVF, then decide not to, and she gets pregnant.
This is, I mean, you've described the turmoil, you've described it feeling like you were hit with a sledgehammer. Did you consider taking your own life?
Many times. The consultant said to me once, cystic fibrosis kicks in, and I'm one of the oldest people in the UK with cystic fibrosis, and probably the oldest person ever that I know of to be diagnosed with it.
The average death is 41, and most children die of it a lot younger, like a sister as well, at 29.
It's always interesting to me that we don't discuss these topics when we talk about equality. Where's the equality movement, the movement that's pushing for equality when it comes to issues to men? The man is a millionaire and he still can't please his woman. All right, well, by her standards at least. I mean, if my wife or whoever it was around me had $1 million, I'd be pretty content. Okay, but imagine the type of person it takes, and this is what men deal with a lot of the times. Imagine the kind of person it takes to go out, have a child out of wedlock, or have a child by another man and bring that child back into the family, knowing well that that's probably not that man's child. You allow a man to raise the children to the ages of 21 and 17. Imagine the kind of $200,000 is not enough. We know the average amount to raise a child in America, at least. This is America. So the average cost to raise a child is about $250,000 for one child. He raised 3. Think about the average man that deals with this very similar situation, that doesn't have the money to go out and get a lawyer to sue a person, that doesn't have the resources, the know to go out and get to take care of this situation. All right? You got to think about the regular people. Too many times do women get away with this. There are probably, man, I couldn't even, it's ridiculous out here, man. It's ridiculous out here. Mandatory DNA tests have to be a thing. There's no question about it. Anybody who says that mandatory DNA tests shouldn't be a thing, they're questionable. That's sus. All right, let's continue the video, though. Stay tuned. I want y'all to hear, because now she's starting to get into asking him about suicide, which is completely disgusting to me. I don't think that in a very sensitive situation where you have a man that's beaten the odds, found out that his wife has been cheating on him, and also that his 3 kids aren't his, I don't think an appropriate question for the interviewer to ask is, did you want to commit suicide? I don't know. Maybe it's me. Who knows? Maybe I'm just being sensitive here. But I don't think that would be an appropriate question to ask a person that's dealing with so much baggage at the moment. But let's continue the video, and I want y'all to see how this language continues and how the interviewer turns on the guest. Let's keep going.
So you know that you've not got a particularly pleasant future.
How did the knowledge then of discovering that your boys couldn't be yours affect the way you felt towards them, if at all?
They're still my boys, and I still think of them as my sons now, as I have been their dad.
Do you love them as much?
You can't not love somebody simply because, in fact, even if somebody committed some sort of offence against you, if the boys had done something wrong, I'd still love them. But they've done absolutely nothing wrong. They're completely innocent in this as well. They are the victim, like I am. So, of course, yeah, my arms are still open for them, and I would dearly love them to come back into my life.
Well, 2 of them, I understand, aren't in your life because they are cross that you sued your ex-wife, Kate. It's paternity fraud, you said. You've won this court case, this settlement of £250,000 from your wife. Why would you risk your relationship with your boys when you say you are their dad, you love them as much, by going ahead with that legal action?
I always brought my boys up to be honest, stand up to bullies, never tell lies. All the time, I was divorced from her for 10 years, and all the time they were with me, all the weekends that they were around at my house, I used to say to them, look, do not keep any secrets from your mum. Be open and honest with her. You know, anything I do, anything I say, I don't mind your mum knowing about it, because I want an open, honest relationship with them. So I brought them up to be open, honest, stand up to what you think is right. Somebody committed a 21-year fraud against
but not
me.
them. And now you've lost two of them. They're not in your life.
The point is, how do I allow somebody who's committed something like that against me, my ex-wife, to just go off scot-free? Because there are many times...
Because the risk is you lose two of them, and that's what's happened.
But they're grown men.
My God.
They're grown men. They understand that I have to take action against it.
In families, when there's been tragedy or anything like this, history tends to repeat itself through generations. And Richard wants to ensure that those boys don't think this is normal behaviour.
She was completely denying that I wasn't the biological father. So up until the court case only a few weeks ago, she was still saying, even with DNA evidence, I'm sorry, the DNA evidence must be flawed.
And the court case
you're the
has
biological
absolutely
father.
settled that, yeah.
So if I am the biological father, those boys all have a risk of having cystic fibrosis. They all need to tell their insurance companies. They need to tell their potential partners. Their children might have cystic fibrosis. I wouldn't even be allowed to meet them, because people with cystic fibrosis cannot meet other people with cystic fibrosis because they cross-infect. So by going via my solicitor, finally, she then, a few weeks ago, said, actually, I accept. You're not the biological father. The boys have got no chance of having cystic fibrosis from me. I can meet them now, and they're free of knowing that they've got a potential genetic disease.
Understood. Do you know who the father is?
I've no idea.
Why have you offered a £5,000 rewards to find out?
I was toying with that as a strategy, because what I feel like is 2/5 of my life, 20-odd years of my life, have been a complete lie. The person I thought I was, I'm not.
Right.
The relationship I had with the boys is not the same as I thought it was. A wife that I thought was loyal, but I had to divorce because we didn't get on, was not. So what I want to do is sit down with this guy and say, were you there in their life? When I was watching them play football, were you there? Did you buy them Christmas presents? How did you deal with the first pregnancy? You know, did you know about the pregnancies? Were you there for the second pregnancy?
You want to meet him and you want to ask those questions?
Yeah, you want to find out what happened. It's almost like you've been in a coma for 20 years and you wake up and you think, God, this guy is a significant participant in my life that I have never met.
Right.
And I have a desire to do that before I die.
Do you know when that will be?
My lungs have deteriorated about 15% in 2 years. And that level of deterioration, maybe 6 to 10 years.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme. We appreciate it. We wish you all the best as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very, very sad, tragic situation. Did you see how the interviewer began to interrogate the man? All right. This is what I tell men to watch out for. A lot of times women, they will do whatever it takes to defend each other. And men need to get on the same boat. All right, when it comes to a lot of these situations that men are dealing with, if men actually stood up and were willing to talk about these situations, we could solve a lot of the problems that we have as men, as a collective. But I understand everybody got to go to work. Everybody got to do what they got to do. And as men, we're very busy a lot of the times. So we don't have time. After getting off an 8-hour shift, you don't have time to go out and protest about men's rights. All right, you just don't have the time. You don't have the energy because you're working your butt off trying to make sure there's food on the table for your family. I get it. All right, but women don't have that. Women thrive off being together socially, off this pack mentality, okay? How many times have you seen a man completely in the right trying to defend himself against a girlfriend and her 5 friends that are attacking him because the girlfriend went and told the friends and they all believe the girl and now they're going after him, right? How many times have you heard a man have a very good point when it comes to gender or gender roles or just the feminist movement in general, and then he gets packed up by 6 different women that are just yelling over him? Okay, I'm trying to tell y'all, man, women are in it to win it for each other. All right, women are in it to win it with each other. Okay, but to go on further, I do think that it's completely important for him to meet it's changed his whole life. Okay, these situations have changed his whole life, and the children should also know who their father is. The thing is, like, when things like this happen, people don't. He's suing for 250 grand. That's nothing in comparison to what this man is owed. I think about the headache, waking up, having to deal with the child crying. Okay, having to go be at basketball games, soccer games, and I'm not saying he has to. I'm not saying he's forced to do this. I'm sure he finds fulfillment, or he did find fulfillment in doing this when he believed that those were his children. But going to soccer games, making sure you got soccer cleats. He's a millionaire, so I'm sure he invested more than 250 grand into his children, which is the average it takes to raise a child in America. All right, so I'm sure he's foot more of that bill than he should have. And this is why I tell men to also be careful with career women. Certain positions of power require more testosterone, okay? And contrary to popular belief, women do produce testosterone. And when they're forced to do so because of the stress of their job, they become more man-like in behavior. Okay? So when men say we don't like career women, it's not only because it's not only because it's a preference. There are reasons in the natural law why we feel that way. Okay, now are they able to express it every time why they feel that way? No, but that's probably why they feel that way. It's because it turns into a competition. Some women in them situations, they feel like they can go out and be a man. And obviously she felt like she could go out and be a man, but there are certain consequences to doing certain things as a woman that there's just not the same consequences as a man. Okay? Men and women are not equal when it comes to certain things, especially being promiscuous. And I'm not going to go too far into it. I'm sure I've already ranted for too long. Till next time.